everybody hear me now? Can everybody hear me now? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Friends of Cyprus conference, which takes place in, I think, the most hopeful and happiest atmosphere of any of our previous occasions. I will only speak for 2 or 3 minutes, but I would like to introduce to you our very distinguished guests from Cyprus who have been kind enough to come and take part in our conference, which began this Tuesday and ended yesterday, and which reached unanimously a number of ideas which have been set out on a piece of paper which is available for you on the table there. You will notice that unlike previous meetings when we have had the participants from the 2 communities sitting either to the right of me or to the left of me, on this occasion the participants are sitting in alphabetical order, thereby emphasizing the fact that they come as distinguished people from Cyprus, and that is the main thought in their minds, and that has been, I think, the main idea behind the conference this week. Many of the participants will be known to you personally, but if I can just quickly mention who they are, then it will be easier for you to address your questions, because when I have finished, there will be no speeches by either side or by any side in this matter. We will move straight into questions, and I hope therefore that some brave person will be ready to put up a hand and ask the first question in a minute or 2. I must emphasize that all the participants here have come in their individual capacity. Some are leaders of political parties, leading members of political parties, and elected representatives, or representatives of communities. But they are here in their individual capacity, and what they say is not meant to commit any side to anything. At the far end of the table, there is Mr. Hadjigeorgiou, who is the representative of the Turkish Cypriot community of Nicosia. Mr. Apostolidis, next to him, is an economist and a leading expert on the economy of the island of Cyprus. Mr. Barinci is a businessman, and Ms. Danielle is a producer on Cyprus television. Mr. Dimitriadis, next to Ms. Danielle, is the representative of the Greek Cypriot community of Nicosia. Mr. Dinglis is a leading member of ACL and Secretary General of one of the trade unions of Cyprus. Mr. Dordoran is a leader of the Communal Liberation Party, one of the leaders, and Mr. Kotak next to him is leader of the People's Party. Mr. Lordos, next to him, represents the Democratic Rally Party, and Mr. Ozgur is leader of the Republican Turkish Party. Mr. Perakleos is from the Socialist Party, EDEC. Mr. Sawyer is an executive member of the Trade Union Federation, DEF-IS, and Ms. Talat is a mother, a chemist, an executive member of the Patriotic Women's Association. So you will see that almost every leading political grouping in Cyprus is represented at this table. Sadly, we have no one here who supports the party of the leader of the Turkish Cypriot community. This is a pity, but all I will say about that is that I do very much hope, as chairman of Friends of Cyprus, that we will be able to include all political political groups at our next meeting, including that group. So that's all I want to say, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to say how grateful I am to all the participants who I think have produced a good meeting without rancor, but leading, hopefully, to the beginnings of a new Cyprus. And I'm very pleased to see that there's a thoroughly good turnout here this evening from Cypriots living in the United Kingdom and others who have come from Cyprus. I also like to welcome committee members of Friends of Cyprus, who I see, Mr. David Souter and Mr. Alf Darts. Now, is there anyone who would like to ask the first question? Gentlemen there, could you please give your name, and if you represent any group, say what that is, and then say who you would like to answer your question.
My name is Andres Polidoro. I would like to address my questions to Mr. Turkura and Mr. Assoc. During the last few months, there have been reports that Mr. Takis was trying to avoid the get-together with Mr. Vasiliou. These reports have appeared mainly in the Greek press. Do you think that these reports were justified, and if so, why? Why was Mr. Takis trying to avoid? Is it true that Mr. Takis was trying to avoid the get-together with Mr. Vasiliou?
Mr. Takis, because of the circumstances, accepted to talk to Mr. Vasiliou, and he said that he found, this is the first time that he said this, he found a man good to talk. This is the first time that Mr. Takis openly says that there is a counterpart for him to talk the future of Cyprus. This is a positive element, and I don't want to say anything more to embarrass them nowadays. The only thing that I want to see is to see a serious exchange of views in the intercommunal talks and a quick development. Thank you.
Before the talks were resumed, I myself sensed some reluctance on Mr. Takis' part. But the important thing is that the talks have resumed, and we want them to be result-oriented. To what extent he was reluctant, it is hearsay, and I do not wish to comment on that.
Gentleman in the front.
Kyriakos Choupras, and I want to address this question to those participants who took part in earlier meetings we had up to now of similar nature. You yourself, sir, described this meeting as good, which means that generally we had much better results. Now could these participants who took part also in earlier meetings refer to those elements which make this meeting a much more effective one, and whether these new elements will last in their own opinion, of course.
Well, in that case, I will give the floor first to Mr. Dinglis and then to Mr. Osgood, and then if any other member who have been at our previous meetings would like to intervene, we can take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. President. I participated in 2 previous similar meetings. The first one was in 1984, and that was on a trade union level. The second one was in December 1986, and that was on a level similar to the present. And this is my third participation in such meetings convened by the Friends of Cyprus. I can compare the results of these 3 meetings, and I can say without any hesitation that the results of the present meeting are good. I should even say something more, are more than good. Why? In 1986, the participants of that meeting were not in a position to adopt any document, joint document. The present meeting adopted 2 documents, a joint message to the leaders of the 2 communities, sent on the 15th of December, and a joint statement, which I'm sure you are already familiar with. These 2 documents make the present meeting fruitful and much better than the one of 1986. Beyond these documents, I want to stress that the general atmosphere, the general climate prevailing in the present meeting and that of 1986 was much different. During our deliberations this week, we observed a constructive approach by all participants. I should not say that there were no differences. There were and there are differences, but there was a certain understanding between the participants, and I repeat that the general atmosphere and climate was much more constructive than that of 1986. These points, I believe, make for us possible to characterize the present meeting much better than the previous one. Thank you.
I was here last time, that is back in December 1986. Now, in December 1986, the INF treaty had not been signed. And that's a very important factor. It was signed in December 1987. Now, the process of détente begun by Gorbachev and Reagan is having its effect, positive effect, on the so-called regional problems. Again, back in 1986, the Davos process had not started. It started in January this year. Whether we like it or not, Greece and Turkey have tremendous effect, have tremendous influence on Cyprus. Greece on the Greek Cypriots and Turkey on the Turkish Cypriots. So the process they started at Davos in order to bring the two countries together and settle their problems by peaceful means is being reflected in Cyprus and is having its good effect in Cyprus. On the other hand, in '86, we had some people from the ruling party who were not so enthusiastic for a federal solution in Cyprus. This time, they have not joined us, and that has made things easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whilst I will not disagree with the opinions expressed by Mr. Hadjigeorgiou, I would approach this from additionally another angle. I noticed at this meeting that the ice was melting faster than before. My opinion is that some of the participants already knew each other from the past, had already debated issues with one another, and therefore were able to start reaching towards one another better and faster. This helped also the new participants get nearer to the gist of the matter, which is debating frankly the issues which were before us. This is why I believe that these meetings must continue, and we should aim to bring additional people to these meetings in future. That is, use some of the present participants, whoever wishes to be present, use them as keys for the subsequent meetings where we will get more Greeks and more Turkish Cypriot participating and reaching to each other. Thank you.
Thank you. I think most of you have a copy of the statement which was agreed. If you would like one, I believe that there are some copies available on the table by the door. But perhaps this would be a good time to mention that among the topics which were discussed this week were economic aspects, human rights, the three freedoms and equality, security, confidence-building measures, Varosha, cooperation between the two communities, especially the concept of cross-determination, bringing future generations together. Also cultural context, and Nicosia was mentioned as an example of cooperation for the two communities, especially since we were privileged to have among our participants Mr. Akinci and Mr. Dimitriadis. So could we have another question, please? Gentleman there.
The three basic principles that the Greek side was insisting on the long-lasting solution of the Cyprus problem were the withdrawal of the Turkish army, the withdrawal of the settlers, and the freedom of the refugees for treated Turkish to return to their homes. I would like to ask our Turkish Cypriot friends, what are their views on these three issues?
Well, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me express my feelings and my gratitude to Friends of Cyprus that I had the honor to participate in this conference for the first time. And as far as I understand from the words of the previous participants, and as far as I have already seen the atmosphere that we were able to create between us during this conference gives me the pleasure and hope that we will achieve more and more whenever we come together and try to understand each other. So I will try to explain my views on these very delicate issues very frankly. First of all, troops issue. When you look from the angle of a Greek Cypriot eye, it's different, and when you look from a Turkish Cypriot point of view, is different. For a Greek Cypriot friend, the meaning of a Turkish soldier is an occupying force, whereas when you consider the Turkish Cypriot population in Cyprus, it does not mean a force of occupation. This is the reality. I'm speaking about how the communities are feeling in Cyprus. This has nothing to do with the international law or whatever. The feelings of the two communities living in Cyprus. So, as the Greek Cypriots sees the Turkish army as an occupying army, they wish them to leave as soon as possible. When it comes to the Turkish Cypriots, they see them as a part of their security. But at the same time, they say, and as a Turkish Cypriot, I am saying here tonight, that I don't want to see the Turkish army in Cyprus forever. Therefore, Turkish army will leave Cyprus, but it will leave when we will feel that we have security, we will feel that we are not going to enter into bloodshed again, we will feel that Cyprus is the common homeland for both Turkish and Greek Cypriots, and we are going to share the homeland peacefully, and we are going to share the prosperity peacefully. So that is my view on the first issue. Coming to the basic freedoms. In principle, I am not against, and nobody can be against, freedom of movement, freedom of settlement, freedom of ownership. These are basic human rights. But we have to be realistic, and we have to see that we need transitional period in Cyprus. We cannot expect a solution to Cyprus problem overnight. This must be a step-by-step approach, leading us to a federal solution. Once we achieve agreements in principle, once we achieve that we are going to have a federal solution, a common homeland, then of course we will start having freedom of movement. But freedom of settlement and freedom of ownership will be, to my belief, a little bit longer, will take a little bit long time. But in principle, as far as it will not jeopardize the characteristics of a federal solution, I am for it. In other words, as you know, we are going to create, as we put it, a bi-zonal federal solution, or as our Greek Cypriot friends put it, a bi-regional federal solution. It is obvious that whatever we call it, we are going to have a solution with two regions. And predominantly in one region, there will be Turkish Cypriot concentration. Cannot be otherwise. This is how I see it. So as long as we don't jeopardize the nature of this federal solution, I don't see any problem at all. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'm conscious of the fact that all the questions so far have been from members of the Greek Cypriot community. I would be willing to give the floor to a question from a Turkish Cypriot, if there is one. Gentleman there.
My name is Ibrahim. I seen the newspaper Harabi this week. The Greek side they say how illegal so many guns.
Sorry, could you speak up a bit, please?
I read the newspaper this week, Harabi, left week newspaper. And inside the newspaper said they found some illegal guns, inside.
Guns?
Yeah. And I think this is big disturbing this time when people come together to meet and solve the problem. What they think we are MPs and the friends, and what is the government doing about this problem? This is my question.
Reports in the press about illegal guns.
I am not an expert on guns. I saw the reports, most of them were not in a working condition, but I can assure you, nothing can be done with these guns if you compare with thousands of guns on the other side.
If I may say a few things, of course, nobody is happy with these guns found last week, this week. Everybody has to be annoyed by such events. But I'm sure that everybody, from another point of view, has to be happy because the founding of these weapons, of these guns, indicates and underlines the determination of the government of Cyprus to eliminate such things and to bring absolutely normal conditions of life in Cyprus. I repeat that the mere fact that these guns have been found should be considered as a determination of the government to do away with such things.
We haven't quite finished this question. I'll call you in a minute.
A few words on the issue raised by the Cypriot compatriot. Even if such events occur, and even if the guns were not found, I want to assure, and I'm sure that all will accept it as a true fact, that there is no climate among the people which would allow any terrorist acts, and in particular against any Turkish Cypriot in case a solution, or even now, terrorists to act or fanatics to act need a climate to accept them, need conditions, need feelings of the people to exploit or to work upon or to appeal to. It is an established fact that we all learned the hard way maybe, but we learned how to work out our future. And there is no common sense Greek Cypriot, no sensible citizen who would lend a willing ear to any terrorist acts, wherever they come from and whatever the intention is. This is the most powerful and the most important guarantee one should give.
Well, I'd like to say very briefly that we are as worried about the loss of guns as Mr. Ibrahim is concerned. We are equally concerned. We have suffered by the use of illegal guns in the past, This is why there are occupying forces now on Cyprus, and Cyprus is divided. Both communities have suffered, not just the Greek Cypriots. We are concerned. We should keep our eyes out for these people who are stealing them. It's a theft which is not designed, it's obvious, and it probably helps remind us that we are sitting on a volcano, that we do need a solution on Cyprus. There are many eager patriots still in Cyprus on both sides who are eager to save us, and therefore we must be careful from them. Saving Cyprus with guns will not provide any more solutions, will only provide more problems. Thank you.
Gentleman in the back.
I would like to ask each one of the Greek participants if they agree with what Mr. Akiji said, and if this is the way they see the solution of Cyprus, if they agree with this meeting or what he said.
Well, we have a limited amount of time, but I will give the floor to one or two Greek Cypriot participants if they would like to comment on what Mr. Akinji just said. Who would like to volunteer to comment on what Mr. Akinji said?
It is obvious that there are differences between the participants of this meeting concerning the problems which Mr. Akinji has referred to. On my behalf, I want to underline that there can be no solution of the Cyprus problem without the withdrawal of the Turkish troops, and I shall say preferably of all foreign troops. There can be no solution of the Cyprus problem without the implementation of the three freedoms. We know the three freedoms: freedom of movement, settlement, and ownership. And we have also to secure reliable international guarantees. This is the way I approach the problems touched by Mr. Akinji.
Another question, please. One second.
Mr. Akinji didn't answer the third question regarding the settlers. It was touched upon and discussed during our deliberations. Our position was made, and this is clear anyway, that there can be no solution to such problem with the settlers being in Cyprus. They are foreign elements, they are alien both in culture, and they have nothing to do with the people of Cyprus. I like our Turkish compatriots to speak out if they have a different view on this issue.
The gentleman there.
My name is Noam Derman. I'm a Turkish Cypriot. I'll direct this to our Greek friends. It's a question with three parts. The first is that it will appear that the Greek friends they keep on repeating that the Turkish army is an occupying force and is a threat to the Cypriots. I would like them to enlarge on that one, since the army has been in Cyprus for 14 years and we haven't seen any bloodbath, any slaughter, or any attempt by the army to occupy, intimidate, or enforce any solution on the Cypriots. If you could please tell us where this threat is coming from. We don't see any threat. The second question is, would you please enlighten us how the Greek Cypriots are going to ensure the Turkish part that you have at last given up the dream of Enosis, which we Turks believe is the root of this Cypriot problem. And the third question is,
well, shall we tackle the first two first? I should make one comment first on behalf of Friends of Cyprus and say that it is Friends of Cyprus policy. We have very few policies, but it is our policy that foreign troops should be withdrawn from the Republic of Cyprus. But Mr. Gordos would like to answer your question.
yes, I just remember the third one.
Well, let's take them one by one.
Every occupying army, in every land that army occupies, is a threat to peace. Why else should it be an occupying force? They must perceive a danger to peace, or this perception of a danger to peace, and this perception makes their presence necessary. At the same time, it would appear that their own presence increases the dangers. You said that there is peace in Cyprus for 14 years. Well, the West Bank was occupied by the Israelis since 1963. That makes it about 25 years. No, since 73. 67, thank you, Boston. 67, that makes it 21 years. And suddenly, and there was peace, and suddenly, last November, the whole area exploded. There was a problem which was unsolved there, and there is a problem which is unsolved in Cyprus. There is an imbalance, and this imbalance is of very great dangers for the island. This is why the Turkish government perceives the need for a Turkish army to keep that imbalance in Cyprus going on, continuing. Concerning your second question about Enosis, I think that we have already convinced our Turkish Cypriot friends here that we are not dreaming of Enosis. We are dreaming of economic development, of human rights, of cultural and social growth on our common island. And since we have convinced your leaders who are sitting here tonight with us, I trust that they will also be in a position to convince doubters like you, sir. If you have a third question that I can answer before I yield the microphone.
Yes, since you have convinced the Turkish colleagues, I would like to hear them say so. So I'm directing that question to the Turkish colleagues. The third question was, are you in a position to accept political equality and the equality of two communities on the island?
Not only we convinced our Turkish Cypriot friends that we have done Enosis for good, but they have also convinced us that they have done Takis for good. So we are in total agreement about these issues. Concerning equality, certainly this is the basis of every balanced society, and this is underlying all the negotiations which are now taking place, not only between these groups like ours, but also between President Vassiliou and Mr. Denktash. Political equality, individual human rights, freedoms, all these items are all those which help every nation propel itself towards the road of political and cultural development, towards progress. And we uphold these rights. Thank you.
Ms. Danielle would like to add a word.
First, I want to thank President of Cyprus for being with my friend Oyad Galat, the first women participants in this conference of Friends of Cyprus. I would like to answer my friend about the troops. The troops are there to divide the two communities. And the division of the island, the loss of communication between the two communities is creating the biggest problem that we have now. Lack of communication alienates people. And if we want to create a country to be peaceful, we have to stop the division. And in my opinion, it's the army, not the political issues, that is stopping us. So the army must go for the benefit of both communities. I was one among the women walk home. Out of frustration, we walked, and it was the Turkish army, not the Turkish friends, that stopped us. It was bazookas and guns that stopped us to walk, to meet our Turkish friends. Our demand was peaceful. We were peaceful women with no arms, walking with the only demand to meet our Turkish friends. And we were lucky enough to meet some Turkish reporters and to give them our friendly messages. Thank you.
I'm not going to reply to all three questions posed because I think there were some replies already. But for those who might forget a few historical things, I mean, things that happened, the question was, why do the Greek Cypriots, why are they afraid of the Turkish army? When in fact for so many years nothing happened. They are there. Of course there are some incidents, but never mind, that is not important. They are sort of guardians, the Turkish soldiers. Therefore, if the Greeks do not have anything evil in their mind, why should they be afraid of the Turkish soldiers? That was more or less the question. Well, let me remind you that originally, when the Turkish soldiers came, they came on the basis of an official statement of Premier Hadjigeorgiou. The statement is in writing. You can trace it in any library. They came to restore constitutional order in Cyprus. Today, they are the army of a country which is the only country in the world which recognizes the state in the north. That is exactly the opposite of what the constitutional order is, or was at the time. So, I think it is reasonable for us to worry in case there are any sudden changes in the mind of those who command the soldiers. And as to the fear of the soldiers, let me put it this way to you. When our Turkish Cypriot friends were afraid that there were Greek soldiers on this side, and there was fear of Knossos and all sorts of fears, sometimes I could say to myself, yes, they were right. Well, why do they not accept now that the same situation arises with us? That is, we are afraid that because of that kind of weaponry and armies being there, we are the minority, if you wish, and we are reasonably being afraid. Thank you.
Well, I would like to add a few words only. I'm not going to consume much of your time. There is no comparison at all with the Israeli occupation in West Bank and Turkish troops in Cyprus. You cannot draw any parallels at all. And you must consider that Mr. Dimitriadis has mentioned the recognition extended by Turkey to the Northern Republic of the Northern Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. But we are forgetting what was the position of the Turkish Cypriot community. For 25 years, they were out of state. I never tried to put the blame to neither side during our discussions, and I'm not going to do it now, but I am just trying to underline the facts. Since 1963, we are stateless. Not a single MP in the parliament, not a single minister in the Council of Ministers, not a single civil servant in the civil service. We needed our sort of a state machinery, and the name of it is not so important. First it was the temporary administration, then we named it autonomous Turkish administration, then it was Turkish Federated State of Cyprus, and recently is Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. No matter what the name is, but the need was there. We needed a machinery because we were out of that so-called legal state. So this is a very important thing to keep in mind. About the troops, if I were to say that they will stay there forever, I could understand the argument. But we are saying that let us reach a solution as soon as possible, a mutually acceptable solution, and let us agree upon a timetable, and let us live as equal human beings in our own soil. This is what we are saying. But you don't see this in the West Bank affair. So I wanted to stress this differentiation. Thank you very much.
I would like to answer the question. No, I would like to answer the question.
I'd like to appeal to the meeting and to participants. We've already spent a great amount of time on this question of the presence of the Turkish army in northern Cyprus. And 5 of the participants around this table have asked for the floor in order to make further comments on the question of the presence of the Turkish army in northern Cyprus. This is something that, of course, strikes at the whole root of the Cyprus problem, and I hope we won't spend too much time on it now. Indeed, we will probably have to close our meeting quite soon. But I will give the floor now to Mr. Apostolidis and to one other who has asked for the floor on this point. But I would ask them to be brief, please, because our conference has been about the future rather than about the past, and about cooperation rather than about what happened rather than about the terrible things which happened in 1964 and in 1974.
There was a question earlier as to what some of the Greek Cypriots here felt about how Mr. Hadjigeorgiou presented the discussion of the main problems. I think he presented it very well. I think we were not here, rather in my view, we were not here to try to agree on everything. We were here to try to discuss the issues, and we discussed all the issues, and to try to understand each other's views, and each other's problems. I think this was the major achievement of this conference to a very large extent. I think we now understand each other better and the problems. And as an optimist, I believe that if we continue with our discussions, we can also find the solutions. To do that, however, you have to first to understand what is the problem, what is the other person afraid of, and then proceed to devise solutions which are mutually acceptable. Because, as the President said, we must look to the future, and this problem must be finished with. There's been much too much misery, and it's a beautiful island. And I think it's about time we began to enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Right, I'll give the floor now to Mr. Durgaran, and then I hope we can take a couple more questions.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't misunderstand that we Turkish Cypriots are in favor of having many troops around us. There are somebody in Cyprus now trying to reach a solution to Cyprus question. For me, a solution is for one person to enlarge our base. We don't want to live in such a small country. We want to enlarge it. We divided Cyprus and we have now a very small part of it. We want to enlarge it. This is a necessity. Second, we want to get rid of present difficulties arising from the non-recognition of North Cyprus. Third, we don't want to see any national or multinational armies on our country. Fourth, we want to have every kind of freedom. I want to move over the Cyprus, or every part of Cyprus. I want cooperation between citizens of Cyprus. I want economic and social cooperation between them. While seeking freedom of movement in Europe, we want also freedom of movement, freedom of settlement, freedom of everything in Cyprus also. These four reasons that why I am always striving to reach a solution in Cyprus. So don't think that we Turks all want to see huge armies around us. Our aim is to reduce the tensions, reduce the necessity of the armed forces, including British Army and American facilities, etc., etc., etc. There are positions of two sides, so if you ask something and you get some reply, you may misunderstood us as a whole. Now we are having to unite ourselves with EEC. And we have been asked that if Assoc is dead and buried. Under these circumstances, I believe that all Greeks saw that the Assoc is not a viable solution to the Cyprus question, a feasible solution to this question. But if circumstances changes, we don't know what will happen. So we want to change this environment into the direction via a federal solution, via uniting Cyprus to the EEC, and see that Assoc and Taksim dead and buried forever.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor now to the lady in the front to ask her question. Lady in white.
My name is Maria. I'm a university lecturer and the mother of a son. I recognize amongst the panelists at least one educationalist, and I'd like to ask all of them whether in their latest deliberations they considered the issue of the younger generation, that is, those who will have to accept the solutions that our generation, is trying to find. Have you considered at all any recommendations to the two educational officers as to preparing these youngsters for accepting life together? They have been born in a divided country. They haven't seen each other, and they have gone through an educational system in both sides, which is against bringing people together. And they are prepared now to go through the army. I had the experience that Bobby Daniel had last November, and I was amongst the first who entered the no man's land. The people who stopped us were people in army clothes, but they were youngsters of 17, 18, who looked at us in the eyes. We could be their mothers.
Could you ask your question, please?
Yes, they were as afraid as us. I think I answered the questions. I'll try again. Have the panelists considered any kind of recommendations to the educational officers of Cyprus, both in the north and the south, about how to prepare the youngsters to accept the solutions that we are bringing to them?
Being an ex-teacher and a politician at the same time, I feel obliged to answer the question. Now we, members of the old generation, have failed. We have not been able to keep our island together, due to one reason or another. But that's a fact. It is there. Our country is divided, our people are divided. And that's a very unhappy situation. The young generations, the new generations, will build up a new country, a united Federal Republic of Cyprus. Now, it has already been agreed by the leaderships of the two communities that a bi-communal, bi-zonal Federal Republic will be built up. It is there as a principle in the Denktash-Makarios Accord, in the Denktash-Kyprianou Accord. But nothing much has been done so far. We hope that the Vassiliou Denktash negotiations, talks, will lead us somewhere. But if we don't change the methods by which we bring up the young, the new Federal Republic will not also last long. We must have a change of heart, and we must change, and we must teach our children the love of Cyprus, of being Cypriots, in Turkish and Greek maybe, but of being Cypriots, and learning to live and cooperate in the country, in the same country. Now, to do that, the Republican Turkish Party has proposed the formation of a joint university for Turkish and Greek Cypriot youngsters, with the medium of instruction being Turkish, Greek, or English. We have to bring our young brains together under a common university. This is one of the things we are proposing for the future. Another thing we are proposing is the revision of history books in both communities. Our youngsters must not be taught to hate the other community. Our youngsters must be taught to love and respect the other community, and to learn to realize that they have to share the common homeland, Cyprus. Another thing we have proposed is the introduction of Turkish in Greek Cypriot schools and Greek in Turkish Cypriot schools. Language is a means of communication, and my generation, some members of my generation know a little bit Greek, but the new generations know no Greek at all. And it is the same with the other community. If we are going to understand each other, we must also learn each other's languages. This is how the Republican Turkish Party approaches the question, and if I have answered the question. Thank you.
I think Mr. Assoc covered practically everything, but as a woman, participant in the conference, Ms. Takis already sent a message to all women, because I think the responsibility of women in educating the children in peaceful atmosphere, it's great. And it's a woman who teaches the children before they go to school. Last week, I think also, Mr. Papoulias and Mr. Yilmaz, the foreign ministers of two respective countries, agreed already, and I was full of joy to listen, that they are going to take out of all the books, all the things that accusing each other as a country. Well, I think...
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. One more question. Gentleman there, yes.
I think now for 50 years, this is your debate on the division, the refugee problem is almost settled. Now I think it's about time to have some compensation, to have some practical and some action. Why don't the Greek government of Cyprus, they don't accept some Turks to come back to their homes? So to see that they are safe, the Greek government was recognized by the United Nations and by the European governments, recognized governments, they accept the human rights, so the Turkish people from below, they can come to their homes. Why don't you do it? Why stop us? The text they propose market to keep families down, but we propose to keep some districts gradually, one district sometimes.
Okay, we got the message. The question was, why doesn't the government of Cyprus allow some Turkish Cypriots to return to their homes, as I understand it?
Well, I'm not in the government and I shall not reply on behalf of the government, but I shall answer the question as I understand the answer. As far as I know, if Turkish Cypriots like to return back to their homes in the south, the government is not going to prevent them. They are free to return. But it is obvious that even if tomorrow Mr. Vassiliou calls upon our Turkish Cypriot compatriots earlier living in the south and now living in the north to go back to their homes, it is obvious that they will not respond positively, because their return, and we wish them to return back to their homes, is connected, absolutely connected with the political solution of the Cyprus problem. So I believe that the earliest possible Every one of us should do his best or her best towards the solution, and this solution, federal solution, should create the necessary conditions for the return of the Turkish Cypriot compatriots to their homes, and also for the return of the Greek refugees to their homes too.
Well, we probably have time for one or maybe two more questions, but at 8 o'clock we will have to vacate the hall. Gentleman there with a paper in his hand.
Question, Mr. Chairman, as the time is running short. First, along the lines of cooperation, it has been very heartening to hear that at least starting from the very low level, i.e. the sewage level of the Nicaea, there has been considerable cooperation to resolve that problem. I would like to hear from the panel other specific proposals that might be taken up without, of course, compromising the diplomatic integrity of the Republic. That's one question. The other, very quickly, Mr. Chairman, is this. We have been welcoming the rapport between Greece and Turkey in as far as contributing towards the so-called international aspect of the Cyprus problem. As a British Cypriot, I am very anxious to hear from the panel what their views are regarding the contribution of the official government, with all due respect and thanks to the Friends of Cyprus, but to the official government of Britain regarding the Cyprus issue. Thank you.
On the first matter, I'll give the floor to Mr. Dimitriadis and Akinji, not only about sewage.
Very briefly, and necessarily very quickly, it's extending to the master plan fiducia. Master plan means, by the way, a lot of things. Anything, environment, roads, lighting, everything. Master plan. And now we hope, I am not disclosing any secrets, Mr. Akinji, no? We hope, and we have seriously considered it, and this is a good thing that happened in London, under the umbrella and wings of the Friends of Cyprus, culture, exhibitions of pictures, of paintings, of things like that, if the political climate is helpful, and if we can really do it. As you know, of course, very well, in doing all these things, we are very careful not to go out of the framework, the general political framework, which is the responsibility of some other people, not us, our leaders, so to speak. But there is certainly scope in doing a lot of things within that framework.
Well, without creating any political problems for ourselves and for nobody, we managed to come together and achieve certain progress. As you will recall, at the beginning of this session, Mr. Chairman presented us as the representatives of our respective communities. Or in other words, I think it was Mr. Lordos who used that term. We were called non-mayors, although we know that both are elected by their respective communities as mayors of their areas. Anyway, without creating this problem of recognition, who is who, we succeeded creating a cooperation under the earth that is connecting the sewerage. Then we are now able to reach to a phase where we will be implementing the master plan of Nicosia. I will very quickly try to say a few words on that. The importance of master plan is as follows. It takes into consideration the present day realities. The life does not stop whether the city is divided or not. You have needs on both sides. You have to plan accordingly. But at the same time, we took certain steps we develop certain ideas. What happens when we achieve a federal solution? In other words, what happens when we decide that we should reopen the international airport? How does this affect this meeting? Where to locate a potential joint university that both communities, it will be accessible to both communities. Where to locate the federal governmental buildings, where to locate the federal civic center. In fact, last year we had another step in the cultural field. We sent our municipal theater troupe to the Greek side. It was very well received. We are very happy about it. And as my colleague already said, we want to continue in this direction in cultural matters to bring the two sides together as soon as possible. I think we cannot solve the Cyprus issue by doing all this, but we are contributing a lot. I really believe in this. Thank you.
With your permission, Mr. President, very shortly, of course, the steps towards cooperation and towards restoration of confidence and trust between the communities have to be elaborated as soon as possible for the rapprochement. Mr. Assoc and Mr. Hadjigeorgiou referred to the university, bi-communal university, and I fully support the idea. I shall mention two more measures which could contribute towards the promotion of cooperation. First, the employment of Turkish Cypriots in the south. You probably know that a number of Turkish Cypriots are now employed in the south. There are possibility for much more employment, and I believe that this is a measure to be promoted and implemented. And secondly, the Social Security Fund. There are Turkish Cypriots beneficiaries entitled to benefits, pensions and so on from the Social Security Fund run by the Cyprus government. And I believe that these benefits should be rendered to the beneficiaries. As far as I know, the governor, Mr. Vasiliou, faces very positively this problem and is ready to render the benefits to the Turkish Cypriot beneficiaries as soon as some practical difficulties will be overcome. This is another measure towards cooperation. And before finishing, I, on my behalf, and I'm sure that express the feelings of all the participants, I want to express our gratitude towards Friends of Cyprus for organizing this meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. Before closing this press conference, I would like to thank Friends of Cyprus organization, which they brought us together in London. There was some questions which asked to each participant here. I would like to answer one of it. Our success in the meeting was to keep calm what happened in the past and see as lessons to us. The talks aim at a lasting peace resumed in Cyprus. The first step taken in Geneva and the subsequent joint communique indicate that the parties have reached agreement on establishing the federal Cyprus Republic. We cannot have this press conference ignoring the goodwill efforts initiated now in Nicosia. For all parties concerned, that is for both the Turkish and Greek Cypriots, and for Turkey and Greece, the best solution, in my view, is Federal Republic of Cyprus, ensuring the continued existence of an independent Cyprus. It does have to be federal because a non-federal unitary state was tried for many years and was seen not to work. The non-federal solution has left behind bitter and bloody memories, and having collapsed, it is now to be buried in history. Thank you.
I would like to thank all those who have taken part in this meeting by asking questions, and assure you that there will be a chance now for you to meet the participants and speak to them on a personal basis if you wish, because coffee will now be available, be served from over there with the compliments of Friends of Cyprus, and also a bar is open to the left, as I look at it, of this hall, serving alcoholic and non-alcoholic drinks on a cash basis, I'm afraid. But I hope you will not go away, because some of the participants at least will be staying here for some time, and it will give you a chance to meet them and talk to them. I would just like finally to say that Friends of Cyprus is encouraged by this meeting. We think it has gone well, the participants agree with us, and we propose to hold another meeting of prominent people from the two communities, only this time it will be on the island of Cyprus, we hope. Either in the Medra Palace Hotel, or else in the Hilton Hotel or the Sarai Hotel on a turn-by-turn basis. That remains open for discussion. But we are planning now another meeting to be held in Cyprus. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and could I also finally say that application forms for membership of Friends of Cyprus are available to my right of this platform. We do need more members and more contributions of a financial set nature to keep our work going. So please, will you take a membership form if you would like to join Friends of Cyprus? I hope you enjoyed this meeting. Good night.